Good afternoon. Welcome to the Producer-Led Watershed Protection Grant Program 2019 Grant Recipient webinar. I'm Rachel Rushman. I'm the Program Manager for the Producer-Led Grant Program. I also have with me Susan Mockert, who is the Grant Specialist and is in charge of the reimbursement process for these grants. The point of this webinar today is really to talk about the basics of what it means once you receive a producer-led grant, how you submit reimbursements, your final report, and then what else is required of you underneath the grant, and then also what resources DATCAP can provide and what resources other partners can provide to producer-led groups. So I just want to quick go over funding over time. This grant program started in 2016. There were 14 groups that had applied to grant funding at that time. And in 2018, we actually got a large increase in funding for the program. And so the funding actually went from $250,000 total to $750,000 total. So that was really great for the program. It really allowed us to expand the number of groups that we could fund. We now have funded 28 total groups since the inception of the program. And in this chart here, you can kind of just see the difference between fiscal year 2018 and 2019. So just in 1 year, we went from 17 groups awarded to 24 groups awarded through the program. As a producer-led group, there are a lot of different communication opportunities that you have available to you. You can really network with the other producer-led groups in the program, and we really encourage you to do that. Some of the ways to do that would be attending their events. We ask that groups send us the information about their field days and conferences and workshops, and then we'll post that to our webpage. So if you're looking for other groups events, either in your area or in other parts of the state, we have that list compiled on our website. We also host an annual workshop, and the focus of that is to really allow groups to network and share ideas, and then also compile those ideas and share them with the entire network and not just the attendees of the workshop. And I'll go over more details of that in the next few slides. Another way you can share information is through the listserv. So we have a listserv that's listed there. On this slide, it's prod-led grants at list.wis.gov. If you send an email to that list, it will bump it to me, and then I'll be able to send it out to the whole list of anyone who is directly involved in a producer-led group. So it's the farmers and collaborators that are the leads on the projects. So if you have any interesting articles you want to share, if you want to share information about one of your events coming up, that would be a great way to do that. We also have a producer-led newsletter. We haven't put one out in quite a while because we've decided to format them a little bit differently. They'll probably be on a less frequent basis, but we do plan to still send out either the e-news or something very similar to that so that you can get an update on what other groups are accomplishing throughout the state. DATCAP can provide several different things to groups. First off, if you're a new producer-led group, we can definitely help with how to get started, what first steps you might want to take, different things to consider when you're structuring your producer-led group. And that would obviously be based on the experience from all of the previous groups that we've funded so far. So we can definitely help with that. We can help by promoting your event. We have a listserv beyond just the internal producer-led listserv of over 800 now, and so if you really want to be promoting your event wider than just a local audience, we can help with that. Also, if you don't have anyone that can really help you create brochures or flyers or invites for your events, we're happy to help with things like that too. You just have to give us plenty of notice so we can get that done for you on time. And then also, if you're curious about who might be a good partner for a monitoring project or some on-farm research that you're hoping to do, you can definitely reach out to us and we can try to point you in the right direction for who might be the best contact for you. I just wanted to list some potential partnerships. I'm not going to go through all of these, but something to consider when you're starting your producer-led group that you probably already have developed a lot of these partnerships, but is how many partnerships you have, how you want them to look. Do you want them to just be partners that come to your events? Do you want them to attend your regular board meetings? Would you like them to participate through in-kind donations or sponsorships? These local partnerships are super important to the success of the groups, and so it's definitely something to look at and consider as you are building your group and as your group is expanding. So I just want to really quick go through the resources on the web page. So we will always have a current map of the producer-led projects and some overview documents and brochures that explain the program. So if you need any of that general information to share with anyone, that's always on our website. Once you're a grant awardee, you also have right here under this grant awardee column, you also will have all of the forms that you need to submit. That's all located on the website. So things like the reimbursement form, your annual report form, and those kind of things. Shortly, we will also have instructions available for when you're submitting a reimbursement, so that will also be under that column. Another thing that's on the website is the impact report. I've only done one so far, and that would be from 2016 to 2017. Because we allow grants to carry over funds, we probably will not do another one then until 2020, and that will include both 2018 and 2019 grant award years, and then we'll put out an impact report for that. But that's kind of a really interesting report because it summarizes what all of the groups are accomplishing as a whole, and then individually some more specifics about what projects are tackling in their own watersheds. If you're interested in looking at any of the past newsletters, if you're interested in the Sustainable Ag Research Education Field Day Toolkit, all that kind of stuff is on the website. So I would definitely check that out if you have not already. So into more of the grant requirement side, reimbursements. Susan's going to go much further into this, but I just want to make note that you do need to include all of your receipts associated with any of the expenses that you're submitting on your reimbursement form. If you have got an upfront stipend payment, you also need to include those receipts with your first reimbursement. If it's your final reimbursement, then you also need to include a submission of that final impact report. You will submit reimbursements to this email listed here. It's very long. It's the DATCP prod-led reimbursements at wisconsin.gov. That's where you would submit the form and the receipts to. If you have any questions on the reimbursements, Susan is going to be your contact for that, and her email is susan.mackert@wisconsin.gov. With extension requests for the grants, funds can be extended 1 calendar year with a completed extension request. Those instructions are also on the web page. We've tried to simplify it quite a bit, so basically it's just sending myself an email with which budget categories you want to carry over, the total dollar amounts of those, and then the total overall dollar amount of what you want to extend over for the next year. And then I mentioned this a couple of times, but with the report, so you must submit an annual report for each year you're awarded funding. And so just to clarify, if you receive funding in 2018, but you're carrying it over into 2019, you only need to submit one report for that, but you need to include information from 2018 and 2019 in that report. The other requirement in this grant is to attend the annual workshop. So this year it's actually going to be on February 19th, 2019, and that is at the Holiday Inn in Stevens Point. One member from your group is required to attend. We really do encourage a producer and a collaborator to attend though, because we have breakout sessions specific to each. And it's just a really great opportunity to network with other groups throughout the state. And a lot of people from the feedback we've gotten have found it really valuable. So again, one person from your group is required to attend, but we really do encourage you to have a producer and a collaborator attend. And if more people want to attend, then beyond that, that's perfectly fine too. Just a heads up for 2020 funding, a request for proposals for that will probably come out anytime after July 1st. So we're really going to try to stick with a similar timeline as we did last year. Of course, if the budget for this biennium doesn't get passed through as quickly as July 1, then we'll have to wait until that's official. But we will try to release it as soon after July 1st as we can. Another thing I want to go over is this final report. I've been calling it final report, impact report. They're the same thing. We will require you to use the template that is on the producer-led webpage. If you have any questions on that, you can obviously email me. I mentioned this too, if your funds were extended into a next calendar year, please identify which year the activities occurred so we can kind of separate that out when we're compiling all this information for all of the group's progress. And now we also have a new table to track acres of practices, the phosphorus reduction, the total acres maybe that you have in your demonstration plots. We're really trying to have more quantitative information that we can pull from the impact reports so that we can share more numbers with people in the overall impact report for the program. We noticed last year that it was kind of difficult to pull the information from the reports because it wasn't in as consistent of a manner because we didn't ask for it. And so this time we're asking for it much more specifically, and hopefully that will make it easier for everyone. So just real quickly, I'm going to go through this table on the right side here, which you want to put the number of farmers directly involved in your group. That's people that are participating in your group on a regular basis. You also want to put in the number of recipients on your mailing list. So this would be people who you invite to events, people who maybe attend those events or workshops or field days. That would be the number you'd want to put there. And then the number of farmers participating in your incentive program. So how many farmers are actually utilizing your incentive or cost share program that you've set up. With the outreach and education events section, so the number attended, so that's how many people attended. An estimate is obviously fine. Each type of event that you hosted. We added a nutrient management component this time. So how many acres do the nutrient management plans that your farmers have in the group cover? And how many plans were either developed as a part of this group or how many plans were updated this year? And then we have acres and feet of practices, and then how many farms participated. So that's getting at a kind of similar question as the prior, but this is really breaking out all the different practices that you're working on in your group, and there are the other categories here where you can add practices if we didn't list them. But just for an example, for cover crops, put an estimate of the number of acres of cover crops that were planted through your producer-led group. And that would be that are directly being paid for through our producer-led grant program, and then how many farmers that includes. So how many farmers are actually getting paid through that grant program to put on cover crops. With the nutrient tracking, so the total pounds of P reduce and N reduce and total sediment, if you're not tracking those things, leave those blank, but this is definitely something that we're really trying to encourage groups to do. Since this grant program is a water quality improvement program, we want to be able to try and track the nutrient reductions that are coming from the practices that are being put in place by these groups. So just a couple of important dates. I had mentioned a couple of them, but February 15th of each year will be when the final reimbursements are due, and then when those annual impact reports are due. On February 19th is that producer-led workshop, and then on December 31st each year, that's when you want to get the extension request email to me, and that way I know that we're going to carry over those funds because those funds technically expire on December 31st. And then we're going to just go a little bit more into reimbursement requests. Like I said, for grant awardees on the web page here, right here, highlighted in yellow, that right underneath there is where you're going to find the instructions and the form of how to submit a reimbursement request. And then right here, I'm actually going to hand it over to Susan. Susan, again, is the grant specialist here at DATCAP that is helping me with the producer-led grant program, and she is in charge of all of the reimbursement side of things. So once you submit a reimbursement, she will be the one that you will want to contact with any questions, and she'll be able to help you with anything that comes up.
Thanks, Rachel. On the previous slide, you saw that reimbursement requests and final reports are due on February 15th, and a reminder email does go out in January about that due date. This slide shows you an example of how we track payments for reimbursement. We need to be able to see which budget category is covered by a receipt, so please write on the receipts a general term that can help us with that, such as field day or newsletter. For incentive payments, use the spreadsheet to track the date paid, the farmer name, what practice was completed, how many acres, and the amount. This helps us with our budget tracking and also will help you with your final report. This is our reimbursement form, which is available on our website. The reimbursement request dates on the top left need to be the dates covered by the request, not your grant dates. In the bottom larger table, you have expenses, and then the middle column is the budget category. If you can relate your budget category and your expenses together, that is very helpful. And then you have their three columns, your upfront stipend payment, so any receipts regarding that, first reimbursement, and final reimbursement. So you would fill out the columns that you're requesting funds for, not columns that you've already been paid for. So just to go back over a few basics for the reimbursement, you can submit more than one request. Just make sure the dates do not overlap when submitting multiple requests. Make sure you submit receipts to cover stipend expenditures with the first reimbursement request and receipts for the first reimbursement request. Make sure it's obvious which budget category a receipt covers. Either use a spreadsheet or mark each receipt with a budget category. You can email your completed reimbursement request to DATCAP prod-led reimbursements at wisconsin.gov or directly to Rachel or myself. If you need to make changes on your budget categories, please contact the program manager.
Thanks, Susan. So with that, that will conclude the webinar for the 2019 grant recipients. If you have any program-related questions, please reach out to myself, Rachel Rushman. My phone number and email is listed on the slide here. And then for grant reimbursement questions, as I mentioned, please contact Susan Mockert, and her phone number and email are listed here as well. And then we also just included the webpage here that has the resources available that we discussed and all of the forms that you need throughout the grant process. With that, thanks and have a good day.